Welcome back to another STEM with Miss Dubois video. In today's video, we're going to go over how to make a good presentation. So the first step into making a presentation happens way before even opening that presentation making platform and before putting your thoughts onto those slides. The first step is actually research. And this is where you research the topic because essentially you are trying to become an expert on whatever you're presenting. And with researching, you can use Google and read reliable sources, run experiments, make observations, collect data, do all of the things that you would do with researching, right? I really need to emphasize that it is so important that you are taking notes during this time because your research is critical to making you sound professional and sound like you know what you're talking about. I would not be able to make this video if I wasn't somewhat of an expert, quote unquote, in making presentations because I'm essentially presenting my knowledge on how to make a good presentation. Let's just talk about the possibility of you making a presentation for school because I guarantee that you will likely make a presentation for one of your classes, whether it's high school or if you pursue college or some type of degree post high school. You are likely going to need to be able to make a presentation because it is a life skill. So for making presentations for a class, your research might be your assignments leading up to that presentation. This can include any readings you've done, any notes you've taken, any worksheets you've done, anything that you've done prior and leading up to you making that actual presentation. Basically, research is gathering the knowledge needed to make the presentation and for you to essentially sound confident and very expert-like in that topic that you are going to be making that presentation on. So step 2 is compile your notes. And you should put all of your notes into one place like a notebook or a folder or a document. I tend to keep all of my notes per topic in one running document. That's just how I run things. But sometimes if I'm making a presentation where I'm like handwriting my notes, I like to keep that all in one notebook. And if I know I have a presentation coming on that topic, I'll put like little sticky notes and stuff in that. Now, step 3 is actually making the presentation. And that's the part that we are going to do together. The first step into making a presentation is picking a presentation making platform to make your presentation on. And this could be anything like Microsoft PowerPoint, Google Slides, Canva, Keynote if you are a Mac user. It doesn't matter because all the stuff I'm going to be showing you in the video can be applied to any of these platforms. These skills are very broad and can be used for the basis of making a good presentation. And that actually reminds me, everything I'm teaching in this video is just making a good generic presentation. You can apply the skills and things I'm teaching you to any presentation you make. It's just a good foundation to have. If you want to learn how to make specific presentations for like business, science, research, whatever, use the internet to actually learn how to do that because different presentations require different things, but this is just good generic presentation making. Now for the presentation that I'm making in this video, I'm going to be using Google Slides. I have used all of the others before for making presentations, and honestly, I like using Google Slides the best. So here you're going to see start new presentation and you're going to see a ton of templates, and this is true for a lot of the other platforms. For this, I would just click blank presentation. And the reason for that is, frankly, those templates kind of prevent you from really making a good quality presentation because they make you stick to their like styles and formats. And honestly, if you don't know how to make a good presentation, I feel like those templates do a lot more harm than good, in my opinion. Just keep that in mind. Every good presentation starts off with a title, and that title should be relevant to what your presentation will actually be about. This presentation is going to be about how to make a good presentation. And for your subtitle, that's typically where you introduce who it's by. So it's by Katie Dubois. And if there are other people that were making this presentation, I would add those names. We are going to leave it like this for now. And the reason why I share this is you might think, oh, I need to add graphics, I need to add visuals, I need to add all of these things. Yes, you do. But it's important that you add those things once your presentation is mostly formed. Everything that I'm sharing here is kind of like how I go about when I make my presentations. Basically, my thought process when making a presentation is I want to get all of my ideas out onto the slides, and then I'll edit, revise, and make it pretty. Basically, I make a rough draft of the presentation, And then I go and beautify it, make it pretty, all that jazz. Let's click on our first slide and get into how to make the rest of the presentation. Now, there are going to be a few things that you notice, right? Click to add title, click to add text. What should we focus on first? I think that you should title your slides first. This way you have kind of an outline of what you want your presentation to look like. And if your teacher gives you an assignment that says, in 8 to 10 slides, describe sports or explain the rules of a sport, then you can kind of go like, okay, this is what I want. And also, you can make that in alignment to their rubric that they have posted. If your teacher doesn't have a rubric, then make sure you follow the instructions. That typically gives you a guide for how to title your slides from there. Speaking of how to title the slides, let's talk about that. So your slides should have relevant and appropriate titles. So what does this mean? Basically, it means that your titles should kind of give an insight, kind of give a clue as to what your slide will be about. So let's just say this wasn't the title. And let's just say this was the title. I love Dr. Pepper. While that is a true statement, if this slide has nothing about why I love Dr. Pepper or why it's a great soda, then although this title is great in some cases, it's not relevant to the slide. So therefore, it's not a great title for that slide. Instead, this is a better title because it gives an insight or gives a clue or shows what the slide will be about, right? And your titles can be questions or short statements, meaning that they don't have to be one word. They can be multiple words, but they should be concise and to the point. They shouldn't be wordy, right? They shouldn't be something where it's like 5 million words as one title, right? It needs to give your audience or the viewer a clue as to what that slide will be about. And this way they can skim the words and look to you. And with that, the audience should be focused on you throughout the entire presentation. And your presentation should not be the star of the show. You, the person who's presenting, should be the star of the show. So let's talk about how the audience could be focused on you over your presentation. And a part of that is with the amount of words on the slide. So let's talk about how many words should be on your slides. Because if you see something like this, I can guarantee you that's way too many words on your slide. And you might be like, why? It has everything I want to say. Well, that's great. Your slide show should not be a script. It should be a guide for you to remember your talking points and to support you. It should not be the star of the show. You, the presenter, should be the star of the show. While this is a crutch and this is something that a lot of people do, it is not good technique for making a slideshow. So let's talk about what is good technique for making a slideshow. So your slides should have no more than around 40 words per slide. Now, even as I write that sentence down, I'm thinking about how can I make that more concise? And you might be wondering, why? That's pretty concise. That's to the point. But in reality, it's not to the point at all. It's very wordy. It has a lot of words. And I can guarantee you I can make that more concise and still get the same point across. And also, this kind of might explain why you might want to make it more concise in a slideshow, because there should be an average of 6 words per bullet point. And even this thing, I'm thinking about how can I make this 6 words or less, or how can I make this close to 6 words? Average means around, right? There should be around 6 words per bullet point. And there should be an average of 4 bullet points per slide. Once again, I'm thinking about how to make all of this more condensed. So that's kind of my thought process right now. I got all of my ideas out, but I'm thinking, how can I make this more concise, right? The wording on your slides needs to be concise and to the point. And even this is poorly worded. I might even get rid of this because this is kind of inferred in this, right? And I can explain that without relying on a bullet point for that. So let's get rid of that. Let's edit that. And let's edit this. A max of around 40 words per slide. Perfect. This and this mean the same exact thing, but it's way less words. This has about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whereas the other one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That is an 4-word difference. That's a lot on a slideshow, right? So here's the current sentence. I want to rephrase this, right? Because I know I can. Bullet points should have an average of 6 words, or each bullet point should have an average of 6 words. Okay, so either way, 1 word isn't going to make the biggest difference, but let's count this. 10 is quite wordy, so even the 9, I might cut it down to bullet points should have an average of 6 words. That's totally fine, but I like each bullet point because it's honestly more concise and more of what I'm thinking. And the other one, how many words did that have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, so honestly, this isn't that bad, but this is fine too, right? 11 versus 8, not a big difference, but it does help. And it does go a long way when making a presentation, especially if you are going to have more than 6 words per bullet point on something. And once again, this is an average. It's not a steadfast rule, but if you can get it down to 6 words or less, you're going to be golden. And now let's try to make that with this. 7, perfect. 7 words. All of this doesn't feel that wordy, and it's to the point and concise. This way, the audience can focus on you, not the words, but you still have some words on the slide to help guide your thinking and to remind yourself as to what you're supposed to talk about. And you see that self-editing process that I did there? That's okay to do when you're making a presentation, right? It's not like you're one and done. You're allowed to edit and revise your presentation as you go through it, right? I might go to this presentation after and think about all the different ways I could rephrase my ideas and how to make these bullet points more concise and less wordy, right? Because my goal as a presenter is for my audience to focus on me and for me to be the star of the show. Let's talk about something that could be distracting, and that is transitions and animations and whether or not you should use them. I would stray away from using them. And you might be wondering why. Well, like I've mentioned time and time again throughout this video, the audience needs to be focused on you. So if you want to be extra, if you want to add some personality or some spunk into your presentation, you, the presenter, should do that as you're presenting. You need to be dynamic. You need to be engaging, not the animations and transitions, because these things can come off as unprofessional and a little bit tacky. And if you're trying to make a professional presentation, it's just really not that good. But let's just say you want to find ways to include it, or you want to learn how to. My first tip is watch your teachers, watch other people present and have really good presentations. And as you get more confident and comfortable, the one animation that I do use the most and that I actually would use a lot is the appear on click. When you click on the thing, it just appears it right away. I actually did it at the start of this video. That was the appear on click. When using animations, there is a time and place for them, but as you are starting out, just stray away from them, stay away. When I was starting out making presentations, I didn't use them at all. And then as I saw other teachers do it and other people do it, I've learned when and where to add those transitions and animations, because frankly, you might want to use them someday, but as you're starting out making good presentations, I would just focus on the basics and get your word count down and make sure you have a visually appealing presentation. Speaking of visually appealing, let's talk about the visuals of a presentation. A question you might be wondering is, should you add visuals to a presentation? Yes, add visuals to your presentation. This can be things like your theme, the color scheme, the font, all of that are visuals to your presentation. If a student of mine were to hand me this presentation as it is right now, one critique I would have for them is make it prettier, make it interesting, make it more colorful, or have some pictures on it, because this is bland. This is a good starting point. I can tell my students are thinking about how to make presentations, and I can definitely give them good feedback on that. But this is not enough. If I were looking at this from the audience perspective, I would be bored. And even if the presenter is great, all great presenters still have an interesting slide deck because it's natural for our eyes to wander. And it's natural for us to look at something and then look at the presenter, especially if you're far back in the audience and your presenter isn't well seen because you're short or the presenter is short or they're just somewhere where you're not looking. Your presentation needs to be somewhat visually appealing. But the visuals of your presentation should be relevant and appropriate to what your presentation is on, right? So as much as I love Dr. Pepper, I would not be adding a can of Dr. Pepper in this presentation because it has no place for it, right? Or if I was making a presentation on the organelles of a cell, I would not be adding a can of Dr. Pepper as a visual in that presentation. And you might be wondering why. What if you make a comparison to an organelle in the cell to a can of Dr. Pepper? I could. I mean, I've done it with every topic I've taught so far. I've compared Dr. Pepper or I've included Dr. Pepper in that. But that would be more on my role as the presenter to make that comparison instead of relying that on a visual, because if someone just sees a random can of Dr. Pepper in a presentation about organelles in a cell, they're going to be fixated on that and not me actually making that connection for them. You, the presenter, should be doing all of the heavy lifting, guiding your audience through it. Your presentation, once again, should be a guide. So this ties in to my point that they should really add to the slide and not distract from it. Your visuals should help you make the slide prettier and be on theme. And speaking of themes, let's talk about themes. Your themes should be consistent throughout the presentation. And you might be wondering, what does that mean? Basically, it should be the same from slide to slide to slide. And this includes the font and the color scheme as well. Basically, one slide should not be black and gold and the other slide be green and red. Whoa, how did you jump from that to that, right? It should be the same color scope, color vibes throughout the entire presentation. And here's the really cool part about themes in Google Slides. You can actually pick a theme from Google Slides and it applies it to every slide throughout the presentation. And the fonts are appropriate. The fonts are legible. We'll talk about that in a second. And it's all consistent. Consistency is key when making presentations. Your slides should look a little bit different with the information and with some of the visuals, but it should still be like, oh yeah, this is all made from the same person. It's all relevant to the topic. I can tell that one person or a group of people made this with a vision in mind. That should be something that is going through someone in the audience who's hypercritical's mind. At least it should be going through my mind if you're a student of mine going through your presentations. So let's pick a theme. There's a bunch to pick from. I love Swiss and I also love Spearmint. These are my go-tos as well as Slate. I also love Pop. I love a lot of these, honestly. Like, I'm a big fan of Google's themes. I really do think they did it almost perfectly. So yeah. For this slideshow, I'm feeling Spearmint, however you say it, it's vibes. So I'm going to make that my theme. But even this is not enough visually, right? Like, well, except for that. I need to add more visuals to my slides and everything because it just feels lackluster. I need to add some spunk to my slides, right? If I had visuals of stuff like pictures of my old slideshows, which I don't offhand right now. If I had visuals from any of the research I've done, data I've collected, I would add those in here because those are totally appropriate images to add in your slides. Like, that is relevant to your topic. Just include it where it's appropriate, right? So like, for context, I did science research in high school, and one of the things that we had to do was have like a background research slide. I would add the visuals from those articles in the slide that was background research because those were visuals and data from the articles I read leading me to my background research. See, that makes sense? If it doesn't, that's okay. To add visuals into Google Slides, you just go to Insert, you click Image, you click Stock and Web, or you can like copy and paste from Google Images, and then you add certain visuals. So let's do titles, clip art. and we go to stock images, and I'm not seeing anything super great that I love. So I'm going to find something different, and that is totally okay. Once again, nothing super great. So now we're going to click presentation clip art, or type that in more so, and we're going to find something that looks like it would be a title slide. One thing that you'll see me doing is if I find like an image that I think will be relevant for a different slide, I will simply just bring that image to that slide. And it saves me time because this is showing a visual of a presentation. Any things that are not words in your presentation count as visuals, right? So I'm even going to go like that. And I have 2 images that are appropriate. When placing your images, don't place them on top of the words like this, not good. But this over here, great. And once again, it shows the point, and it also is relevant to the slideshow. It's a very visually appealing slide, or it's kind of a visually appealing slide. So once you have all your visuals, you need an ending slide, and this can simply look like something like this. Perfect. It's a great ending slide, gets to the point, asks your audience for any questions, which they may have. If you're giving like an in-class presentation, it's also just a good way to engage your audience even more after you talk at them for however long you're supposed to talk at them. But yeah, this is a good generic way to make a good presentation. It's to the point, it's simple, and these are skills that can be applied to any presentation. Now, if you want a video on how to give a good presentation, because I did not go over that in this video, let me know in the comments below. I'll happily make a video on that possibly. It might just take me some time because I do have to do it in my classroom as where I teach. But yeah, just let me know in the comments if you want me to go over how to give a good presentation. I'd happily go over that. And that was another STEM with Miss Dubois, where today we talked about how to make a good presentation. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day and a great life. Bye!